Alright guys, some of you probably don't need to watch this video. You can maybe read through these notes and just go ahead and try and take that quiz. Or if you're already pretty familiar with a TI-84 or any graphing calculator, you might be okay. But I just wanted to provide this as extra support for people who wanted it. So I'm just going to go through these notes and kind of show you how to use them on the graphing calculator, and then you'll go ahead and take that quiz. If you have a school Chromebook, you have a graphing calculator application already loaded onto your Chromebook. It'll be at the bottom base bar down there. There's going to be a little calculator icon in the middle. If you do not have a school Chromebook, if you have your own device, we can try to figure out a different way to get you a graphing calculator, either an application or a real one. We'll just have to touch base about that. But let's go ahead and do this. So the first thing you want to do with the graphing calculator in general is to clear the calculator RAM. That will clear anything that you have already typed into your calculator. So if you had equations maybe hanging out, or you had done some weird storage with your calculator, we just want to make sure that's all cleared out so it doesn't mess up anything you do right now. So to do that, we just press these buttons in this order. So we do second plus 7, 1, 2, and then your RAM is cleared. To access blue items, so those would be all these words that are in blue. They might be a different color on your calculator, but the pi, e, your square root, e to the x, so on and so forth. You have to press your second button, and then you can press whatever button is associated with that blue item. So if I wanted pi, I'd have to press second, and then this caret, which normally gives me an exponent, but because I press second, gives me the pi instead. You can do the same thing with your alphabet, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You can see them all in here. If you hit alpha and then the button, it will give you that letter that's associated with that button. Remember to use parentheses. I'm sorry, I'm skipping around a little bit, but remember when you're doing parentheses on problems, it's very important, especially for when you're like squaring negative numbers, to make sure to use parentheses so that the square applies to the negative and the 2. And I'm going to go ahead and actually type in a little bit right here, because then we're going to play around with it. So for your editing keys, essentially, is what we're going to look at now. So the arrow obviously moves you around in that equation. You can also, if you wanted to get to some sort of menu, so if I did the math menu, you can go up and down in your math menu, and then you can also go left and right to hit the other menus. If at any point you need to get back to your home screen, you can always quit the screen that you're on. And so whether that would be like the graph or the math menu, to get back to your just home screen, I can press second mode, and then that really will make me quit back to my home screen. And so now I'm back to what I was working on originally. So we go ahead and we do this calculation. Now let's say I wanted to actually, instead of doing -6 plus 2, I wanted to do -16 plus 2. So the first thing you can do, instead of having to type this all out again, is if you press second and then enter, you'll notice that you'll be choosing the blue option entry. That pulls the previous entry you were working on down, and so now I can continue to work on it. And if I wanted to make this say 16 instead, I want to insert a 1 before that 6, so I can do the insert is a blue option here. Second, this button allows me to insert a 1 before the 6. Okay, or if I wanted to just subtract 1 and not 16, and I wanted to get rid of this 6, I could, instead of clearing out this whole equation and having to type it out again, just hit the delete button, and that will delete whatever my cursor is currently on. So that's pretty nice. So it deletes just one part of your entry. Of course, if I wanted to clear this out and just start all over, I could do that, and if I press clear one more time, that will clear my entire screen. So those are some nice editing tools that save you a little bit of time. Some of the common uses or things that you'll have to know how to use a calculator for will be to insert pi. So if I wanted to hit pi, we talked about that earlier, you hit second, and then this is called the caret key. So I get pi that way. Or if I wanted a square root button, that's down here. So I can do second and then my x squared button. Now I can type inside of my square root like that. To leave the square root, you would just press right to get out of it. Now I can type outside of it too. And then the last kind of very common thing we'll have to be able to find is negative. So let's say, for example, that I wanted to do a -3. That looks different than if I try to do a -3. right? So like you can't really tell when they're not side by side, but a -3 and a -3 are different. If you try to do just a -3 using the subtraction symbol, you will end up with an error message. And an error message, you can choose one of two things to do with it. You can either just quit and then go figure out what you did wrong, or sometimes your error message allows you to go to the problem. So if I go to the problem, it's telling me, hey, you tried to use a minus symbol here instead of a negative. Why don't you change that? And so I can change that. And now it will give me a -3. The last thing you have to be able to do for just the basics of a graphing calculator without the actual graphing part is it'd be really nice if you could find reduced fractions using your graphing calculator. So for example, 9 divided by 27, I know reduces more, and instead of figuring out like what the top and the bottom are both divisible by and doing it that way, you can do the actual calculation. Your calculator will spit out a decimal, and then if you hit math and then the number 1, this has a little arrow towards a fraction. So math 1 will take your previous answer and change it into a fraction if possible. So there we go. And this is a really fast way to get reduced fractions. So like 9/27 is that. So my is that decimal, and then I can change it into its reduced fraction form. Or like, for example, 80 divided by 160. It's 0.5 and 1/2. So you can find the decimal form of it. You can also find the fraction form. You will come across sometimes where you're not able to reduce the fraction. So for example, if I do 7 divided by 12, that's this decimal. And then if I try to change it into a fraction, it's just going to give me back 7/12. So that's already in reduced form, and that's okay. All right, so if you have any questions, let me know. But other than that, you should be good to go on trying that graphing calculator quiz.